And pine has been, I feel like, present in my whole life. There's so much to share about pine. I actually get so overwhelmed. I think about pine, and there are two words that come to mind for me: clarity and peace.
Welcome to the Herbs with Rosalee podcast, a show exploring how herbs heal as medicine, as food, and through connecting with the living world around you. Pine is often so familiar that we forget its gifts, yet this resilient tree offers powerful medicine for both the lungs and the spirit. In this episode, I'm joined by herbalist Liz Neves, who shares how pine helps us breathe more freely, release grief, and reconnect with hope. We talk about the many forms of pine medicine, like resin and needles, and how this tree supports everything from winter wellness to emotional resilience. Liz also shares her experience working with pine as a teacher of presence, reminding us that even the most common plants hold profound healing. If you enjoy this episode, please give it a thumbs up so more plant lovers can find us, and be sure to stay tuned until the very end for your herbal tidbit. Welcome to the podcast, Liz.
Thanks so much, Rosalee. It's so great to be here.
Yeah, likewise. I'm really looking forward to getting to know you. And I think one of the best places to start is just to hear about your plant path journey and what's brought you to us today.
Yeah, it's a great question. I was really reflecting on this because I have like multiple story arcs in this like relationship with plants. And I was thinking back to my childhood actually, and thinking about how I felt called even then to the plants, but I didn't understand fully their medicinal properties or anything like that until I was an adult. So I remember being younger, and like my grandmother had a mimosa tree, and I just was fascinated by the flowers of the mimosa tree. And my grandfather, whom I didn't know, he passed before I was born, he had a grape arbor. And so there were like grapes. I just remember grapes, and like I associate those two trees with my grandparents, my father's parents. And then when I was probably around like 3 or 4 or 5 years old, I would play with acorn caps and yew berries and spruce. And at the time, I didn't know what I was playing with, but they were like my toys. And then like later on in high school, I felt this calling to go to the mountains. And my high school had a unique program in the summer times. It was kind of like an outward bound type adventure, like a backpacking trip in the Adirondacks. And they gave us this little field guide with like 3 or 4 plants in it. And I think it was like eastern white pine, sassafras, and poison ivy. And they might have mentioned clovers, which is so funny.
Yeah, that's an interesting combination of plants for
I
sure.
know. And there was just those. Like there was nothing else. And I had forgotten all about that book. Like I went to college, I studied psychology. I didn't even I wasn't as immersed as I am now in sort of the natural world and the elements, but it started calling me back. In around like 2005, I was working a regular corporate job, working inside, and I was starting to get tired with the environment of being like shut inside all the time. And I was also starting to kind of wake up to things that were more ecological and healthier. I started to swap out all my cleaning products for healthier options, DIY. I was like all about DIY at that time. And I even started a blog on like green and sustainable kind of lifestyle. But then I found permaculture, and through permaculture, my teacher at the time, Andrew Faust, he gave us this huge packet of handouts. It was like all paper. It's something people probably wouldn't do anymore. It would be like a PDF or something. But and in there was an article from Susan Weed, and it was an article about how she came to her land. And I just loved how she described like how the land that she was sold was considered like not useful, but she was finding a use for it, which was like to have goats and weeds basically. And I was like, oh my God, this is the best. And that was sort of like one of my entry points back to the plants, was studying permaculture, learning about the ways that Susan Weed teaches, and then studying with a variety of different teachers. I studied with Pika Tranquil at the Open Center. And I went to Third Root Community Center in Brooklyn, which is no longer around, and studied with Jacoby Ballard and Karen Rose. And one of my first teachers was also Leda Meredith, who recently passed a couple years ago. And she was like I call her my foraging fairy godmother. When I went on a walk with her, I just knew like this is what I wanted to do. Like I wanted to be outside. I wanted to be with the plants, and I wanted to be talking about them and sharing like not just their medicinal properties, but like the mythology associated with them and all of the stories that humans have created around them and the relationships that we've like developed with the plants since before we could probably utter the words, before we created the words, for what they are. Maybe they told us who they were. Maybe that's how language developed. It's a theory.
I like that theory, Liz. I know what my mind keeps thinking about is that I wonder how many of us on the plant path like had those like inklings of the plants calling us from an early age. Because I just really resonate with that. Like I can think of times when I was quite young where I was just so enamored with the plants. And that enamored, I never forgot those moments, but then life went on. And then like, it's like that. So I almost like, I feel this, and I've heard other herbalists talk about this where it's like the plants call us, they're like, come here. And we're like, oh, that's so cool. And then like, we go on another path and the plants call us back. No, come over here. And we get into it, and then we like go on another path, and then finally it's like 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 they just keep calling, and finally we're caught in their web.
Yeah, and that's the best web to be caught in.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that trajectory, and just I know the permaculture has been really important to you. You've also studied a lot of other just kind of earth-based skills and energy healing, and woven that all together in beautiful ways.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's I mean it just keeps meandering this path. It's definitely not linear, and it keeps changing, and it's exciting. What I love about the plant path is that it is so diverse, just as diverse as the plants are. It's like you can be a clinical herbalist, you can be a folk herbalist, you can just, I say just, but I don't mean it diminutively. Like you can be a home herbalist and help your family, not take so many medications, or you can craft with your hands, like you can make things, dye and all. The plants are just so abundant. They're so giving. We like everything, our clothing, our furniture, everything. There's no end to what they give, and there's no end to how we can create with them in collaboration.
So true. I just have a random question for you. You said you had a corporate job. I love that you said like I was working inside. That sounds like such a thing an herbalist would say. Like, like there's a lot of people who have corporate jobs and then like go off to like do their, their hobby becomes their main income, but they probably wouldn't describe it as like I worked inside. But my question is, how was that for you, like transitioning from kind of like a traditional path that was like socially acceptable and like the path that you were on even to walk away from that? Was it something you did suddenly? Was it something you eased away from? And was that hard or easy? Just curious about that process. I think there's other people out there that, might be wondering, what does that look like?
I would say it's all of it. It's easy. It was easy and hard. Like it was easy to step away. For me, I was like, see you later, like for me emotionally, it was really easy to step away. But then stepping in continues to be challenging. Like I feel like it's a continual stepping in to how, like, if you make this a living, which is what we're required to do in this capitalist world that we still live in, and hopefully are changing, we have to pay for rent or pay for a home or pay for, all the things, or we can live in a different economy of trade and stuff like that. But I think the hardest thing for me has been, making a living from doing this work. That's not to say that it's not possible. And maybe it's just the way that I've meandered. And I have created little pocket businesses, I would say, out of doing that. But yeah, like when my son, well, before my son was born, my son is almost 13, actually, like in less than 2 weeks, he'll be 13. Before he was born, I was making products and selling them at markets and teaching people, how to make their own body care products and cleaning products and all these things. And it was like, yeah, it was like I jumped off too soon, maybe from the corporate, like, I was like so eager that I just like jumped out maybe before it was time, whatever that means. I honestly I don't regret one bit of it, because I think being like a solopreneur is really hard.
Hmm.
And I think that when we do step away from a supportive role within the system, where, we do have maybe healthcare taken care of, or, there's the golden handcuffs, I guess. It is hard to forge your own path in that way. And I'm still figuring it out, to be honest. I'm still figuring it out.
Well, thank you for that very thoughtful answer. I think that's, yeah, you've captured the nuance and complexity of it there. I like that. It's just, you're like, no, it was really easy to say goodbye to the corporate job, but it just layers of complexity come in after that.
Yeah.
Well, the plant that you've chosen for us today is pine, which I'm very excited for because I live in a pine forest. So it's one of my favorites. And I'm excited to hear about your relationship to pine and what you have to share about pine with us today. So wherever you'd like to start with that, let's dive in.
Yeah. So, wow, there's so much to share about pine. I actually get so overwhelmed, but then like I think about pine, and there are two words that come to mind for me: clarity and peace. Clarity brings peace, and peace brings clarity. So there's this beautiful dance of those kind of states of being embodied in the pine tree. Where I live on the East Coast, one of the predominant species is the eastern white pine, Pinus strobus, which is, to the Haudenosaunee people, their tree of peace. Literally, the where the weapons were buried, the hatchet is buried under the tree of peace, eastern white pine. And if you know the wampum belt, it has the pine tree right in the center. So it's a really important tree for this region, that particular type of pine. And pine has been, I feel like, present in my whole life, but I'm noticing how much more present they are now in the paths that I've been choosing, or that I've felt called to. One really special place to me is the Pine Barrens of New Jersey. And, that name Barrens, I feel like, can have like a negative connotation. And the funny thing is, like, pine is also a symbol of fertility and virility. So it's kind of a contradictory name, I think. And I'm sure there's other meanings for barrens and sort of the ecological sense. But when I think about that, it makes me kind of laugh. So in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey, there is the tracker school where I've been going to the classes there, but also I recently taught for one of their organizations, 4 Elements Earth Education, which my son and I started going to about 3 or 4 years ago. We started going to their camps, and they teach earth skills. And you're just surrounded by the pines. And I'm sure you know, like with the wind through the pines, there's like no other sound like that. It's so ethereal and soothing. And it brings me back to the original thought about peace. It's like the peace of the pines, the smell, like evoking that. Like you step into a pine forest and you take a deep breath, and there's like an immediate transformation. And it's physiological, it's emotional. There's actually like aerosols coming off of these the trees are creating these aerosols that create these microclimates and microenvironments. I'm going to jump around a lot because all these different images are coming to mind. I was recently in the Great Smoky Mountains and I hadn't been there before. And I was amazed by just this phenomenon of the aerosols being, when you think, if you've seen pictures of the Great Smoky Mountains or if you've been there before, there are these beautiful clouds like that exist. They're like these mist-like clouds that exist over the trees at the treetops of the mountains. And that is like what the trees are creating, which is a protective cooling layer of air, basically. And the trees are like, trees are the lungs of the planet, and these trees in particular have such a strong affinity with the lungs and breath. And what is like more fundamental than that?
Mhm.
What's more important and fundamental than our breath?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
beautiful, Liz. It's really beautiful. Yeah. And there's something about the pine too, and you're out there in the sun. I mean, there's such a distinct smell. You can really, get a sense of that. I love that you started with peace and clarity because it reminded me of just this week. I was very sad and had a very, very heavy heart and dealing with the grief and passing of a friend. And yeah, I was just so sad. So I went on a walk and there was this big grandmother ponderosa pine tree out on my walk. And so this tree has brought me a lot of comfort before, and it takes a bit of going like through a lot of brush and everything to get over there. But I was like, it's worth it today. And I so rambled over there through all this brush, and there's this little like hollow in it that's just like perfect to put my back up against. And so I put my back up against the tree and just sat there for a really long time. I don't even know how long. And I was brought so much peace in that moment. And also in that time too, it's like I felt like I was just kind of like wallowing in sadness and just like, kind of like circular thinking and just kind of stuck in this place. And so I decided to like do whatever I could to like get out of my head. And so ponderosa bark has a really cool, or ponderosa pine has really cool bark. And there was all these like pieces of bark around me from the tree. And so I just spent a long time just like really looking at the bark, like all these slivers of bark. And it was just this amazing thing to be up against this tree that's hundreds of years old, in the middle of this forest, and just feel the comfort, feel the peace of it all, and then be able to stare at this little tiny piece of this huge tree and just be enamored with that little piece for so long. So yeah, I'd kind of forgotten about that. And as soon as you said the pines bring peace, I just immediately remembered like, oh yeah, that just happened to me this week, that pines brought the peace. So yeah, I would not have thought of starting that way with pine. I appreciate that you did.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that story. It really I just love how you can just dial in right down, like how clarifying that is to just like focus in on the beauty of that one piece of bark and how much like is in there and just that one little piece.
Hmm. Yeah.
Just like,
Yeah. It's
and
so true. So true. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I was thinking about how, like, they say if we name something, then sometimes our brain can like shut off and it's like, oh, like we named it. And so our brain is done. There's something to be said about looking so deeply at something. And I really just needed to get out of my head, and just find some like space. And yeah, just I would do that again and again. I still don't feel like I know or understand ponderosa bark. It's so amazing.
I don't really know that. I mean, I have seen ponderosa pines, but I haven't developed a relationship with that particular tree. I know they can be really big, like pines. I've
Yeah.
seen, yeah, I think out in Arizona.
And
Yeah.
I have to mention that it's so interesting that you talked about the pine barrens because I think I got actually into herbalism through the tracker school. So that
Oh
was
my
kind of
gosh, I didn't
yeah,
know
that
that.
was my inroad. Yeah, but I've
That's
never been
amazing.
back east. I went to the school down in Santa Cruz when they were like traveling. And my first teacher was Karen Sherwood, and she taught there for a long time. And yeah, so I've always like thought of the pine barrens and have thought of it as a barren place, like because I've never been, but like I've always like kind of unconsciously had that. So it's just funny that you brought that up because it's like, oh yeah, it's probably not barren, but I kind of had like this like desolate, picture in my head. So
Yeah, I hear that, and I think most people do because like the pine barrens actually take up a huge like in New Jersey. There's multiple pine barrens, but the biggest ones are in New Jersey and Long Island, at least on the East Coast. And there's also a little tiny one that I lived in this past winter, where it's a small pine barrens habitat, and also coastal, like Cape Cod, I feel like has some of that pine barrens ecology, but it's not barren at all. And in fact, it's one of my favorite ecologies because it contains like some of my favorite medicines, like sweet fern. I love sweet fern, and that grows in a pine barrens habitat, and it grows in the pine barrens in New Jersey. There are different kinds of oaks, like scrub oaks, and there's blueberry and wintergreen, and all these acid loving plants. They all grow in the pine barrens. And I love ghost pipe too. I know ghost pipe grows in a lot of different environments, but like that one I have a special relationship with. Interestingly, with like ghost pipe and pine, I realized like the relationship between those two in terms of peace. Like I noticed that I have an affinity for plants that evoke peace, because it's something that I desire in my life, is to have peace. So they've been calling, both of those plants speak to me pretty loudly.
Well, that's beautiful. Yeah. Well, thanks for painting a better picture of the pine barrens for me.
Oh, and then there's pitcher plants and all these other wild, and sundews and all kinds of like interesting carnivorous. I mean, I could keep going. Beautiful, beautiful place.
Yeah. Well, where else would you like to go with our pine exploration today?
I don't know, there's like a lot of little tidbits about pine that I find interesting. For a time I was looking at my ancestry. I have a pretty diverse background ancestrally, but I have a big chunk of people from ancestors from the British Isles and from Scotland and Ireland, and I was interested in the Celtic ogham, which is like what some people call the tree alphabet. And it's sort of this runic alphabet, which I don't fully understand. And I feel like even maybe scholars today have a good understanding, but there's probably even more information that we don't have because it got lost to time. And the staves, the ogham staves, like a lot of things back then, were probably written on wood. And so a lot of those things probably decomposed. But the Celtic ogham for pine or spruce, it's kind of vague which coniferous tree it is, but is ilum, and it is a symbol of wayfinding and beginning to find one's purpose. And it's a beautiful, to me, it's like really helps to clarify who we are and why we're here and help us find our way, which I find to be really beautiful. And I think like something that I resonate with. But I also find it interesting, kind of on the flip side of that, is that when colonization started here, the British saw the white pine trees, and of course, they had deforested their land. They deforested Ireland, and then here they come to this fresh virgin land, so they say. And they see these beautiful, tall, white pine trees, and they look at them and they say, those are masts for our ships. So they're taking this, what's a symbol of peace, and they're turning it into sort of a symbol of war, putting it on their warships. And, but all of that is like maybe not, a great experience for the pines or for the people of this land. But I find it interesting, the connection between wayfinding, the symbol of wayfinding, and having a mast on a ship, like, and the relationship between like the wind power, and like thinking about the trees and how the wind moves them, like, and that connection and that relationship, like who figured that out, that a pine tree would make a good mast, and that relationship with the wind too. I don't know. I find that really fascinating.
It was really fascinating. Kind of beautiful and poetic in a also sad way.
Yeah. That what you spoke about the ponderosa pine and your need to like find relief for the grief, like that is the medicine of pine as well. The lungs are huge. Like the lungs and the nervous system are sort of like two really big points that the tree works with medicinally. And drink. I have a cup of pine needle tea, of course, for this talk, because I was like, oh, I need to have some pine with me.
In the cutest cup too, for people not watching. That's super cute. Love a good tea mug always.
I know, it's really important. But that if you have tightness in your chest, it could be from grief, it could be from an illness. It doesn't really matter what it's from. Pine is going to bring relief. Pine is going to unstick what's stuck, whether it's emotional, whether it's physical. There's really ultimately no difference. When we ingest the pine, when we breathe it in, when we drink it, when we take it as a tincture or a honey or an elixir, any form is going to help to alleviate congestion in the lungs and give us a sense of peace in the places where we might feel grief. And it's also very cleansing, antimicrobial. So if you have a cold or something, and you can help to clear and boost your immune system. There's like tons of vitamin C in pine trees, and a lot of conifers, for like spruce as well, like has high vitamin C content, and it's just such a great plant, and evergreen, of course, too. So through cold and flu season, you have trees right outside. If you have pines near you to harvest from, then you can easily make a remedy for that. And that's the season that's coming. You want to be prepared for the season. Oh gosh.
Yeah, I think that's one of those reasons I have such a connection with the pine, because for 6 months out of the year, the only plants that are really available to me are ponderosa pine and Douglas fir, because everything else is covered in 4 feet of snow. So those are the plants I get to interact with for a long time. You mentioned it, helping with the chest and grief and just like actually moving things out of the chest. And I want to say the first time I ever experienced a stimulating diaphoretic or stimulating expectorant was a decoction of pine needles. And it was, the decoction is kind of, it's got a lot of bitter, qualities to it. But man, it was just like, oh, that's what a stimulating expectorant is. I mean, it really just gets things moving and out in such a profound way, thorough way, I could say. Yeah.
Yeah. I love how the tree shows us that too, and the way that the sap like oozes out. It's like almost like it's showing us how like it's going to come out of you. It's like oozing out of you. And I love like all the ways that the tree communicates all these important uses to us. This past weekend I was with a group of teens teaching them about foraging, and we came across a spruce tree that was oozing quite a lot of pitch, and we collected like this much of it from the tree.
Wow.
And I had taken a piece, and I was like, I put it in my mouth, and it was in there for quite a while because it takes a long time to dissolve. And I was like chewing on this one piece of one of the kids also had, she said she had a sore throat. So she took some, and she was like sucking on it like a lozenge. And it's like, it's right there. You could just pick it off the tree and use it that way. But the reason why we gathered this much is because one of the other teachers was going to be making glue, pitch glue with that. And you can do that from pine or from spruce. And he mixes it with charcoal and then uses that as like pitch glue. And it's interesting how it's also like the stickiness. It's like it resolves in our bodies when there's stickiness, it resolves that. So kind of like the opposite property.
Yeah. Nice. That's a messy job, harvesting that much of the pitch. Yeah.
One kid who was holding the whole thing like this, and his hands were coated, and he was trying to figure out how to get it off, and he was like rubbing it in the dirt, and he had like a method, but by the end of the weekend he still had lots of it on his hand.
Yeah, smells good, but yeah, it's a mess.
Yeah. It's worth it though.
Yeah. Yeah, I often harvest in the winter time because I can. So it's, in the winter time when it's below freezing, it's like you just kind of break it off and it's not sticky and gummy, and just easier to get it off.
Yeah, it was a warm weekend, so it was all melty. And then my son, he wanted to burn it. He wanted to make a torch. So we got a fir cone, or actually no, we got a spruce cone, and we coated it in the pitch, and then we made like a little tiki torch.
Oh, fun.
From
Did it work well?
Yeah, it did.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
it's really cool how versatile the pitch is, and could use it for wounds, to treat wounds, helps to draw out splinters, and heal scrapes and things like that. Yeah.
Nice. Hey friends, it's Rosalee. If you've been nourished by this podcast, if it's helped you feel more connected to the plants or more grounded in your own herbal path, then I'd love to invite you to join the Herbs with Rosalee podcast circle. This special membership helps make the podcast possible. It supports everything we do behind the scenes, and it gives you a chance to go even deeper with the content that you love. Inside the circle, you'll get exclusive herbal resources, live classes each season with some of my favorite herbal teachers, and a private space to connect with fellow plant lovers. It's where the heart of our herbal community continues to grow. To learn more and join us, visit herbalpodcastcircle.com. Your support means the world, and it helps this podcast continue to bloom. The recipe that you've shared with us is absolutely delightful, pine needle infused honey. And would you go over that recipe with us and just share a bit about it, why you decided to share this one, and how you like to use it?
Sure. I mean, who doesn't like honey and sweet things? Maybe there are a few people who don't like honey, but a lot of the plants I find that I like to use for colds and flus and things like that, I like to infuse in honey because it's just so soothing and easy to prepare. Like you can just put a spoonful of that in your tea, or even in just some hot water, and it's instant tea. So it's like absurdly simple. You take some pine needles. You can cut them up if you want to, but then they're small and you have to strain them out. And I find that you don't really have to. You can just put them in whole, jam them in a jar, and then pour honey over that, and you can let that steep. I don't know. It depends on how long you want to wait. A little bit longer, maybe you'll extract a little bit more of the goodness from the pine needles. But yeah, like a week, maybe 2 weeks, and then you just spoon it out, and you can chew on, like my son, he'll even eat the needles, so you can pull them out and chew on them with the honey on them, and just such good medicine for boosting the immune system and keeping everything feeling good in the cold and flu season.
Yeah, I love these types of honeys, like you said, like by the little spoonful. But yeah, it makes instant tea, which just can be such a relief when you are sick, because sometimes it's not. I could always have the best intentions of all the things I'm going to do when I'm sick, but then when I'm like actually sick and tired and I don't feel good, a little spoonful of honey into hot water, making it instant tea, is pretty nice. Very practical.
Yeah, and it's great for kids too. If you don't want to give them tinctures or anything with alcohol in them, it's a really nice option.
Soothing for the throat. Yeah, so many.
Yeah, so many uses.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you'd like to share about pine, Liz?
I could go on and on about pine, but here's something. I was talking about crafting with pine, and I really love like crafting with my hands. So I made some pine needle baskets, and this was actually the first one I made from the pitch pine. And I love how it even like kind of looks. It reminds me a little bit of like a pine cone in the way that they grow, and like the spiral pattern. But yeah, this is it's tedious work, but it's really satisfying and not so hard to do once you get it started. I love working with this material because it's so, especially like the hardier, it doesn't work so well with eastern white pine, but with pitch pine, because and probably the pines out west have longer, thicker needles. It's just such a satisfying feeling. They're smooth and kind of hardy, and I just love how it comes together.
I have also made pine needle baskets, and I have to say mine have never looked that good. So They're passable. I'm not saying they're ugly, but yours are quite cute.
Thank you. Yeah, it's fun to get creative with the stitching. I was kind of playing around with that, just like some intuitive meanderings, kind of like a web.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hear the squirrels will cut down they're out there getting the cones, but they'll cut down the needles as well. And so certain years there'll just be like piles of needles, fresh needles just on the ground. So we would harvest
Nice.
those, just off the ground, say thank you to the squirrels, and that would make our pine needle baskets. So
Yeah. Yeah, I just thought of animal relationships with the pines, and this spring where I was living up, it's not far from where I am now, but it was like up on the mountain by the pine barrens habitat. I saw tons of porcupines, and it's funny that they love pine trees. They climb up into them, they hide in them. I feel like they're like so akin to the pine tree, porcupine and the spines. And yeah, and I learned from my friend Nancy, who was also Nancy Good, who was the one who kind of introduced me to Four Elements Earth Education and the Tracker School, that you can burn their poop as incense, and it smells like pine or hemlock or whatever they're
interesting.
eating. Yeah, and it smells really, really good.
Yeah, that sounds like a practical joke you'd play on someone, like, hey,
I
this
know,
will
like, here,
smell
like
really
this.
good.
But it
So you
does
just
smell good.
you just let that like dry out, then no further processing needed. You just kind of
You just track the porcupines, you find their den, and then there's the poop, outside of their den, and then they like rocky habitats. They're very, they're very specific. At least here I love how they like to be in the ground and they like to be above the ground. So they're either down under, like I've seen them down under stones, or I've seen them up like in the pine trees.
interesting.
And locusts, they like to eat locusts too, apparently, like locust blossoms or locust pods. I saw them up in the locust, and they can climb. It's amazing because they look like they'd be kind of big and cumbersome, but they can climb really far out on the branch to nibble on whatever they're nibbling on up in the tree. Um, yeah, it's kind of surprising. They're
Yeah, so
pretty.
going back to the poop thing, I wonder if that would be like good for like a mosquito repellent, like the smoke, you could put that in your campfire and be a good mosquito repellent. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can even poop aside, you don't have to use the poop. You can burn the needles of
Sure.
any, like the conifers on their own too, and I bet you that would make a really nice. It's also like a really nice incense. I actually made pine needle incense, where you don't even have to dry out the needles. You just grind them up and add. I've used honey and marshmallow root as a binder and a little bit of water, and then you just kind of like pinch it together into a little pyramid. And I find that it's easier to burn it like on a coal than it doesn't really, unless you use other things like mako powder or something else to like bind it. It doesn't just burn on its own. You have to like put it on a coal to burn it, but it still works really well. I really love the smell of the
Yeah, it's
burning.
interesting with the honey too, that you put honey in there.
Yeah, it's
Interesting.
more of a bind. It's just like a
A
binder, but I
binder.
guess it
Okay.
probably does add some sweet scent too.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds lovely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pine
like
is just like, yeah, there's more and more medicine. Like you could
mhm.
sit here and talk about it for a long time.
Yeah, especially in the winters, conifer smells are just some of my favorites. So I'll make like my body butter with the evergreen, and a friend of mine makes a really good conifer oil that I'll just use all over my body. But yeah, it's just I can't get enough of that smell, especially in the winter. I definitely associate it very strongly with the winter.
Yeah, with the winter holidays too. Like I take the fir if we have like a fir tree for Christmas time, like to take the needles and make an oil with them, and then yeah, make lotion or
Yeah, yeah.
oh, I give that out as gifts, and everybody's always like, "This is the best smelling lotion I've ever had," and they
Mm.
keep it. They like keep it for a long time because they don't want to use it up because they know it's kind of like seasonal and precious.
Mhm.
But you can like I found that you can like leave the needles in for a really long time, and because they're so antimicrobial, it doesn't go bad. The oil doesn't go bad. Like it lasts much longer than other oil, like other herbal oils would.
Interesting. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Was there anything else that you'd like to cover before we move on? I don't want to cut you off on anything. So anything you want to share, Liz?
I don't know. Oh, yes, actually. I was thinking about the relationship between um, pineal gland and pine trees and the cones and like, I don't know, I'm sure a lot of people talk about how the pineal gland is shaped like a pine cone and the pine like the cones and the pineal gland are both sensitive to light. And so I find that like and I feel like maybe pine medicine would be also helpful for regulating, not necessarily producing melatonin, but regulating our ability to manage like lightness and dark. And there's that relationship, I think, with the tree and lightness and dark and the seasons too. Like this is a tree that brings us through the dark months. So yeah, I just love that connection between like the shape of a pine cone, which looks like our pineal gland or vice versa, and that they both are light receptive and help to regulate like fertility and our like sleep wake cycle. I think is a fascinating connection.
What I find fascinating, Liz, is how your brain works and how you see these like associations between, you're talking about like the masts and the wayfinders and yeah, just these correlations between things. It's a really beautiful way of seeing the world and being informed by the beauty and the lessons and the wisdom around us that we're experiencing and how that informs, our passage in life as well.
Thanks, Rosalee. Yeah, thank you.
Well, I know that you have written a whole book on Northeast medicinal plants, and I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, there's a couple stories that go with this book.
Oh, cool.
Was so I had mentioned Leda Meredith earlier, and she had written a book called Northeast Foraging, which was also from Timber Press. And I would lead plant walks. So I did actually most of my learning about plants was in the city. And even though now I split my time between the country and the city, like that is where I learned plants. And when I went on my first foraging walk, it was with Leda and it was in Prospect Park. And then when she moved out of the city, I took up where she left off and led plant walks in the park. And so about, I don't know, I guess it was maybe the fall of 2018, I forget which year, somewhere around 2017, 2018. I was like, you know what? I'm ready to write a book. I'm going to write a book. And I had this idea, and it was not the idea that came to me, but I had an idea for a different book. And then a month later, I got an email from Leda, and she said, hey, I'm not in the Northeast anymore. And Timber Press reached out to me to write this book. Do you want to write it? And I was like, whoa, yes. And people on my walks had been asking me, is there a book? What book do you recommend for this region? Like what book? And I would always recommend Leda's book because it was the closest thing that I had to like a regional field guide that was like really easy to access. And so anyway, I was like so honored that she thought of me and so honored to like have this opportunity land in my lap. It still feels like a miracle, and it was like solving this thing that I needed a field guide to offer to people that I was showing the plants to, and so it continues to be such a gift. Even with the teens this weekend, like they had me bring my books and like we gave it to them at the end of the weekend to say, look, all the plants we talked about, they're all right here. You can look them up. I'm so grateful to Timber Press and that series. It's a whole series of field guides, regional field guides. And the Northeast one, I honestly, so far, I haven't found anything quite like it for this region. And I had 1 year to do the whole thing, photographs and all of it. And I did get to source some photos and some editorial help from Seven Song, and I had an editor who, was really great with helping me kind of hone in some of the ideas. And but yeah, it was quite a seemingly magical coming together of all that information. Like, I honestly don't even know how I did it in that short of a time.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's one thing to write a book, but to be also doing all of the photography and everything, and then just the technicality of it too, and cross-checking all that stuff. And there's a lot of moving pieces there for sure.
Yeah, I feel like it's a miracle. I did find one error in it, and I was like, oh, it's like a sentence got omitted, but I'm amazed at like the process and how smooth it went and how like it all came together with really very little issue. And I know you've written at least one, Wild Remedies, and like probably more books, and like how the process is, I'm sure, just like taking it from concept to finished product. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, yeah, and actually just had a meeting earlier today. I'm getting started on my third book, and I had this moment where I was like, "Why am I doing this again?" Because it's especially at this very beginning stages where we're just like writing a book proposal. It feels daunting, but having the end product feels so good. So
It
yeah,
does. And it's I said, it's like a gift that keeps on giving too, because it's always
yeah,
there. Like I carry them in the trunk of my car because
nice.
there's always someone like, hey, do you have your book? Or, when I go to certain places, like people know that I have it. So it's like right there. Um,
Nice.
it's really, yeah, I'm really happy about it.
That's wonderful. Like you said, the Timber Press have put out amazing books. So many of my friends have written them for all the different regions, so that's pretty fun in that regard too. And yeah, quite a collection. So yeah, it's wonderful to be a part of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
Well, what other herbal projects do you have going on, Liz?
Well, I have been teaching this class with my friend Emily called Fire and Forage, where we combine the earth skills of making friction fire with foraging to show. And actually this past weekend when I taught these kids, it was like basically fire and forage, because we went out, we foraged, and then we cooked over the fire. And
Mm,
that's basically what this class is. But you're making the fire. All the kids know how to use bow drill kits, so they all made their fire, and it took
nice.
some time, but they did get it. Um, it's not always guaranteed, with friction fire, that you're going to get it,
Hmm.
especially depending on the weather conditions. Um,
Hmm.
but
A lot
yeah,
of humidity can really put a damper on that, literally.
yes, absolutely. And it's funny because Emily and I taught this class in June, and and it was a rainy day, and most of the people that we taught got a cold, even
Oh,
though things were damp. I think we were trying to be really mindful of how we kept our stuff. Like, we kept
mhm.
everything away from the ground, and um, we did it up on a raised platform. But yeah, it was really incredible. And it's really incredible to see the reaction that people have when they are like, oh my God, I just made that fire, like, from, essentially two sticks, It's like, um, and then I get to cook on it, like from things that I got from the land. It's just like all those connections that come together for people. It's like it's like such a human thing that not everyone gets to do and touch upon. So that's one sort of ongoing herbal project that I'm excited about. I'm also, something that is not quite herbal, but will definitely have an herbal influence, is a project called the Women's Intuition Project. And this is like the first time I'm announcing this publicly, and it's
Ooh.
sort of in development. And maybe you would like to be a part of it too at some point, but I'm interviewing women about their relationship with intuition.
Hmm. And is this
So
like a podcast or what is the
it'll be a podcast plus. There's
cool?
going to be more, but definitely a podcast element to it. Yeah, I'm really, really excited about this. And that for me, like the plants, like a lot of my intuition comes from my connection to plants and communicating with plants. So it will definitely be a big, big part of, big part of this. I'll share one little story too, just in regards to like listening to the plants
Hmm.
and pine. It was early in the pandemic, like right at the height when there was shutdowns and my son was not in school and he had to do remote, all that stuff. And it was just like such an uncertain time, and it was really scary and really uncomfortable time. And there's this one white pine tree in the park that we go to, and it's a perfect climbing tree. It has like this perfect straight branches that go up in like a perfect ladder. And so it's a tree that my son liked to climb. And one time, all of us, like our whole family, climbed the tree, and we sat at the top, and we were away from all the people who were milling about in the park, because they were like, everyone was trapped inside. So the park became this huge like party zone, even though like it used to be for me like a refuge, and then it became like a party scene. So we were up there in this big tree, and I was feeling a certain way. I was feeling like really down and upset about just the state of things. And I heard the tree say, "It's all okay. It's all going to be okay."
Hmm.
And I was just like completely in awe and completely moved, and I couldn't believe it. Like when it comes from that place of like, what? Like, where, what? I didn't say that. Like the tree is definitely saying something to me. It was one of those moments where it just felt, I can feel the truth of that,
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
So it landed then. Like there was a like, where's that coming from? But you did feel like things are going to be okay.
I mean, some part of me accepted it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure I was still, in other ways freaking out, but like it definitely came in and was like, okay, this is all right. You're going to be okay. Like, we're going to figure things out. It's going to be okay.
Hmm.
But also that universal, like, yeah, things are chaotic and things are awful right now. And like, ultimately, in the scale of things, like, the earth is going to work it out.
Hmm. I
Something
love
will
that you were.
continue.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you're nestled in the branches of the tree, like in the embrace of the tree, and then the tree's like, it's going to be okay.
It really was like a mother hug from the
Yeah.
tree. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
Well, Liz, if people want to get your book, they want to check out your courses, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Right now, my website, gatheringground.nyc, is probably the best place to go. The book is sold, Northeast Medicinal Plants is sold in most booksellers. So if, you can buy it directly through me, or you can buy it from most booksellers too.
Wonderful. Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
that brings us to our very last question, which for you is, how do herbs instill hope in you?
Gosh, I think the giving nature of herbs, the it's the most like unconditional giving that they have, that they offer, the abundance that they offer in their medicine, in their food, in the ways that we create with them, um, and the way that they are so resilient.
Hmm.
Um, I know many people talk about plants pushing up out of the sidewalk, but I just see that and I think plants, man, plants are okay. Plants are going to keep going. And that to me, again, is like that idea, the bigger sense that everything's going to be okay because life is going to continue in some form. And even though maybe humans won't continue, or we will continue in some other form, like they are us and we are them. Like there's something that's going to keep going. So for me, that's helps helps me have some broader perspective about the world.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I feel the same way in that. Well, I guess sometimes what I think about is, how do people have hope who aren't connected to the plants or even the living world around them? Because I think that is what brings me so much comfort every day. I walk a lot, and sometimes I nestle next to pine trees, and sometimes I'm just out there walking. And I don't know, I feel like that is my mental health wellness, and that is my sanity, and that is my bigger picture, and my hope is out there in the forest. And it's hard to imagine what people do without that.
I honestly don't know, which is why I try my best to introduce people to it as much as I can, because it is
Yeah.
such a healing balm. And I'm wondering, how do you nestle up to pine trees without getting sap on your clothing?
Yeah, so I am a double Virgo. And in that, I'll just specify, I really do like to be clean. Like, I'm not the herbalist out there that's like super dirty and doesn't care. I also like wear very like pretty nice clothing as well. So I did a thorough check of the pine tree before I sat next to it, or like in that little thing. I've sat there many times before, but the ponderosa pine bark is very thick, and and there's like many layers, and it usually doesn't really ooze unless it's been wounded. So another favorite tree of mine is also a pine, and it's right on the side of the road, which in the wintertime I can still get to it because there's huge snow banks everywhere, so it's difficult to get to all the trees I want to. But in the wintertime, I can still get to this tree. I call it my gratitude tree because I stop there every day on my walk and do gratitudes. And just kind of like a joy, like fill myself up with joy and do gratitudes with this particular tree. And that tree, because it's right on the road, the snowplow will hit it. And so it's very
Mm.
scarred and has a lot of sap coming over it, out of it, which I always apologize for that for the tree and tell the tree how strong it is that is withstanding this massive snowplow coming at it. But it is fun to play with the sap and everything or the resin that's coming out of that. But that tree, I hug that tree a lot, and I have to be very careful about the hugs. So,
I love it.
yeah. Yeah. In the winter, if it's like super cold in the wintertime, it doesn't matter. But it was like just 2 days ago. I really needed a big hug from that tree. But I was like, kind of like, okay, like, okay.
It's an awkward hug.
Yeah, it's an awkward hug trying to figure it out. Yeah. Yeah. But we figured it out in the end.
But I love that because it really creates like a sense of deeper awareness of like your body and the relationship with the tree, and also like that you have like I think a lot of us, we have specific trees for specific purposes that are in our life, that we go to and ask whatever, or pray, or whatever we do, like to connect with that tree. And they again, they give us so much. They like,
Yeah, they really did.
without even having to ingest them or anything, they give us everything. Like all the answers are there.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have done such a beautiful sharing of that today. Thank you so much for just kind of illustrating that. It was really beautiful to see how your mind works and the associations you make with that, and just all the wisdom that you've kind of translated from trees to us. So thank you so much. It's been absolutely delightful to hang out with you.
Same, Rosalee. It was really great.
Thanks so much for listening. You can download your illustrated recipe card from today's episode. Just head over to herbswithrosalieepodcast.com or check out the show notes for a link. If you're not already subscribed, I'd love to have you as part of this herbal community so I can deliver even more herbal goodies your way. This podcast is made possible in part by our awesome students. This week's student spotlight is on Shannon Pearson in California. Shannon is a student in the Herbal Energetics course and the Healing Power of Teas, where her reflections are thoughtful, nourishing, and beautifully written. With a background in biology, nutrition science, and outdoor education, she brings both science and soul to her herbal studies. Shannon's journey with marshmallow and mallow neglecta has been especially powerful. She describes making cold infusions almost daily and feeling the soothing, moistening qualities spread through her body like a sigh of relief. It's the same feeling, she writes, as when a loved one brushes my hair or when I float on my back in cool water. Her daughter also joined in the fun, enjoying homemade marshmallow treats made from one of her favorite tea roots. To honor her contributions, Mountain Rose Herbs is sending Shannon a $50 gift certificate to stock up on their incredible selection of organically and sustainably sourced herbal supplies. Thank you so much to Mountain Rose Herbs for supporting our amazing students. Okay, you've made it to the end of the show, which means you get a gold star and this herbal tidbit. And for today's herbal tidbit, I have a poem for you by Mary Oliver. It's called 5 a.m. in the Pine Woods. I'd seen their hoof prints in the deep needles and knew they ended the long night under the pines, walking like two mute and beautiful women towards the deeper woods. So I got up in the dark and went there. They came slowly down the hill and looked at me, sitting under the blue trees. Shyly, they stepped closer and stared from under their thick lashes and even nibbled some damp tassels of weeds. This is not a poem about a dream, though it could be. This is a poem about the world that is ours, or could be. Finally, one of them, I swear it, would have come to my arms, but the other stamped sharp hoof into the pine needles like the tap of sanity, and they went off together through the trees. When I woke, I was alone. I was thinking, this is how you swim inward. This is how you float outward. So this is how you pray. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I'll see you in the next one.